the loss of the original Simple Spoils and the bridging of the lines between the Diabellstar and Wanted engine and even Azamina into the expanded fire engines that could use level 1 fire monsters as starters, Rescue Ace seemed to have taken a big hit with the last list, but Konami kind of threw us a bone over all the other decks that were also using these cards because they gave us back our best starter, Airlifter, to 3. I don't think they needed to do this, if I'm being real. It definitely made sense to bring back Airlifter now compared to waiting in the future, because Rescue Ace will no longer be like just this crazy one card combo deck moving forward without the need of another engine. Some people went back looking at the Super Heavy Samurai engine as a potential sub-engine to get the Rescue Ace engine started, which I think is not the worst idea in the world, but it can conflict too much with what you want to do with Rescue Ace and Super Heavy leaving cards in the spell and trap zone like the Big Benkei. Baron is no longer a card, so you're just unable to get rid of it. It's kind of just stuck there. It can be a little awkward, and then, you know, Super Heavy has diminishing returns. You can't really get much off of opening Super Heavy cards later on in the game. So although Super Heavy Samurai Rescue Ace could be good in like an opening turn going first, there is still a lot to be desired about the deck's longer term grind game and its ability to play through certain things, since it can't activate spells or traps before resolving Motorbike or Wakashi. The only reason why Super Heavy worked so well with Rescue Ace is because Super Heavy was able to produce 2 level 4 monsters without using our normal summon, giving you access to the battling boxer King Dempsey. King Dempsey would be able to search you your Airlifter, and then you would be able to normal summon the Airlifter. So the question of, is Super Heavy worth playing in Rescue Ace now? I think maybe if you're on a budget and you want to try out Rescue Ace, even then I think Rescue Ace as a go second deck, you don't even really need to play Super Heavy. You can play stuff like Rescue Ace Impulse, Reinforcement of the Army, 1-for-1. I feel like there's a budget way to play this deck with like just enough cards that like can get you to either a special summon of Hydrant or of a normal summon Airlifter. And the reason why that can be really significant is because you don't need Airlifter turn 2. Turn 2, you can go straight Promethean into Raging Phoenix with just Hydrant alone. That's something that most people really aren't talking about when it comes to Rescue Ace, but Rescue Ace is decent at creating an OTK scenario off of just one card, and the rest of your non-engine or the rest of your hand can be non-engine or hand traps to deal with your opponent's board, break them down, and then you simply can either go Hydrant into Preventer into Raging Phoenix OTK, or which you can still play Diabellstar and the Illusion stuff if that's something that tickles your fancy. But I think there's a more obvious, more straightforward answer that gets to the point a lot quicker, that also saves the deck in terms of consistency, both going first and going second. And I think the answer is very simply just Ryzeal. And I know that the engine is really expensive and that it ultimately playing like the new thing isn't always in people's tastes, right? Some people just want to play Rescue Ace pure, and I understand that. But I think it's going to be really hard to deny that Ryzeal Rescue Ace fits together so well. I have 3 combos to show to you guys today, and I have 2 different deck profiles. One that's more Ryzeal focused and one that's more Rescue Ace focused, and we're going to go into those deck profiles a bit later. So it's going to start with Bonfire, and this is actually kind of funny because before the ban list, we were playing Bonfire to search Poplar, and then Poplar would get OSS, and then OSS would get you Hydrant. And that's why you only needed to play 2 Hydrant, because you didn't want to draw both the Hydrant and the Bonfire, because then it would be like you have a useless Hydrant in your hand. So now it's kind of funny because Ryzeal also gets started with Bonfire, so you don't have to trade or move your Bonfires. You can just keep the same Bonfires that you have and just simply repurpose them to work with Ryzeal. So we can go search on X, and then X can mill the aggregator to summon itself, but when you summon it this way, you are locked into only being able to summon a rank 4 exceeds from the extra deck for the rest of the turn. Now, for Rescue Ace, this is not a big deal. Rescue Ace doesn't really need to summon from extra deck going first, so being able to get one of the best starters in the game without using your normal summon, essentially like Mathmech Circular. So we're going to dump the Mirror Logic so that we can attach it to a Detonator later, and we're gonna grab the Sword Ryzeal. And so Sword, because you control any Ryzeal monster either in field or if you have any in grave, it can just summon itself. Again, if it summons by its own effect, then you're locked into rank 4s for the rest of the turn, but that's not that big of a deal because we're already locked. So now Sword is going to be able to grab us the Ice Ryzeal. Just going to be another decent extender because all of the Ryzeals have some way to special summon themselves. Sadly, Ice only gets its on summon effect on normal summon, so if you special summon out the Ice Ryzeal, then you get no real extension or ability to continue comboing off of it. But yeah, so here we can go into Battling Boxer King Dempsey to search the Airlifter, and so we're going to use the Airlifter here to grab the emergency. I do believe you could go Dual Drive to search Cross here, and then just use like 2 of your Ryzeal extenders like Node and Ice to then make the Battling Boxer King Dempsey. But I'm just doing this way because this is like the path of least resistance. I just want to show you that the line works, and we could worry more about the most optimal combo lines later. We get to search Airlifter, normal summon Airlifter, emergency into Hydrant. Hydrant gets you Turbulence. Turbulence gets to banish to summon. Set 4, and since we control Hydrant, we can use the alert, grab the Preventer. And now you're going to see me use Preventer here to banish alert to summon itself, but I'm immediately going to resolve Ice's summoning condition and send the Preventer to summon itself. Ice can send cards from field or hand, so you don't have to summon the Preventer if you don't want to. You can just discard the Preventer with Ice and it'll still get its effect to summon monster from the banish zone, since the Airlifter was already banished off of Turbulence anyway. That would really only come up if you were playing the Reinforced Trap card, because you know, otherwise once a Rescue spell is in the graveyard, it's going to stay there until you get the Rescue field spell. So now we have 2 more level 4s again, so now we're going to overlay not into Detonator yet because Dual Drive is actually generic. Detonator isn't, so we're allowed to make Dual Drive here so that we could turn any 2 level 4s into 2 Ryzeal level 4s. I really do like the Dual Drive can detach from any monster you control, so that even if your Dempsey is just going to sit here with like nothing to do with its last Exceed material, then you can utilize Dual Drive to detach that Exceed material and get some value off of it. So we're going to search Cross and Thode. I should have activated Cross first because, you know, hand traps could still be a thing even this late in the turn, but yeah. So I summon Node with its own effect, and the Node is able to send off the Dempsey since I don't need it anymore, and summon back another Ryzeal. Here we're going to go Detonator, and then Detonator is going to be able to attach the Myriologic from grave, and then ending things off with a Cross. We have 3 pops off Detonator. We have Contain, Extinguish, Rescue to potentially be able to steal something from the opponent's graveyard. If not, it can also summon back the Rescuer's Preventer. And then we have Cross to negate. And then we have Mirror Logic, where if it's detached, it gets to negate. Doing some quick maths, potentially up to 8 interruptions just off of 1 Bonfire or X'd Ryzeal. And it's really great because Ryzeal is so explosive, and the fact that at any point in your line you can kind of just stop, use 2 level 4s, and just grab a Airlifter is like the best you can ask for. So Ice is a Pyro, so you could Bonfire for Ice, but I think if you Bonfire, you're going to want to Bonfire for the monster that doesn't need your normal summon. Ice needs your normal summon, but it still gets you to the same point. You just need a few more extra steps to get there. So we're going to go over. Ice can normal summon and then summon out the Sword. And so this is how Ryzeal normally goes into its Fiendsmith line if it doesn't open Engraver. If they have a normal summon Ice, then that allows them to use both these monsters to make any kind of monster that they want, as long as it's before they summon out the X'd Ryzeal, or before they continue with the Ryzeal half of the deck, they can bridge into the Fiendsmith half. So what we're going to do is we're going to bridge into our Rescuers half using our King Dempsey. Now we can't just normal summon Airlifter because Ice already used our normal summon, so instead we kind of have to play around the fact that Airlifter is just in our hand. We go X gets to search a Fire Ryzeal, so we're going to go for Node. Node is going to summon itself since we have an Exceed monster and Field or Grave, and then Node is going to send the Airlifter from hand to summon back the Sword Ryzeal from graveyard. Now we get to turn any 2 level 4s into our Duo Drive. Duo Drive is going to be able to detach both from Dempsey and from itself. Get a cross into Sword. And Sword here, which is really funny because it looks like we summoned Sword like multiple times this turn. First time we summoned Sword, it was off of Ice Ryzeal. The second time we summoned it, it was off of Node's effect. And so we never actually get to summon it off of its own effect, which is what we're doing here, since we have a Ryzeal in either field or graveyard. So now we get to go for Dugars, and this is how you're going to bring back your Airlifter. So Airlifter is going to be able to dig you for emergency, and essentially you're going to be able to set up the typical Rescue sets with Hydrant on field. Unfortunately, we aren't going to be able to make the Detonator just because having to use our normal summon did make the line pretty tight, because now it's like we have to go Dempsey, then we have to go Duo Drive, then we have to go Dugars to summon back. So it did make things a little tougher, but we do still have Monster Negate with Duo Drive plus Cross, a Reinforce, Extinguish, and Contain. And this is all just off of one card. We're not utilizing any other cards in hand. One card for 4 interruptions is still a lot more than you can ask for. And I think still good enough to allow the deck to function and stuff during the opponent's turn. So we're going to use Cross here to shuffle back to draw 1. And so we even got to replenish the card in hand that we used to set all of this combo up, which is kind of crazy. If you think. So this is the final combo, and this will require Airlifter or Emergency plus any random Rescue Ace monster, just for the Emergency as a target. Because we want to be able to have the Airlifter plus at least one more monster on field. I guess it could be any level 4. I just really like Airlifter. Or just Airlifter is just the most convenient because it searches the Emergency, which gets you to keep playing. So we Emergency into Hydrant. Hydrant gets Turbulence. Turbulence gets to banish 2. Since a quick play spell counts as a Rescue Ace card, we're going to go for the Alert here. Grab Preventer. And then we're going to link 2 into Puzzle Mino. So Puzzle Mino, he requires 2 monsters at different levels. So, you know, Hydrant's a 1, Turbulence is a 9. And then if a monster is summoned to his own he points to, you can declare a level from 1 to 8, and the monster becomes that level until the end of the turn. If you special summon a monster to his own, then you get to pretty much make up the level for it and use it however you please. He also has another effect where you can target 2 monsters with the same level, 1 from each side of the field. So it's kind of like a boneless SP or Scrap Dragon, and then you can pop both monsters, which isn't important, where we're not going to be using that effect. So we're going to go Preventer, banish Hydrant, and then summon itself. Puzzle Mino is going to declare, make Preventer level 4, and then Dual Drive is going to come out. Dual Drive is going to detach to grab us a Sword and Cross. Preventer is going to be able to bring back our Hydrant, and I believe it is a hard once per turn. If it wasn't a hard once per turn, that would be really interesting if you could like just keep manipulating the levels of monsters you summon. Unfortunately, not that lucky. So now, since Puzzle Mino's on link 2, we have to go straight into Promethean Princess. Princess can revive 1, which this time is going to be Hydrant, and then go straight into Sunlight Wolf so that we have the ability to both grab follow-up and also use Promethean as an interruption. So we're going to resolve Cross, we're going to go for Sword, and Sword gets to summon itself because we do have Duo Drive engraved. So Sword is not only going to be able to summon itself, but it's going to be able to search the X. X gets to summon itself. We're going to overlay into the Sickest Detonator, and now that's also going to allow Sunlight Wolf to trigger. I think it's just really interesting how much the rank 4 engines can provide for this deck. If we look at this end board, it's like we have Promethean engraved, so that's 1. We have Detonator with a Mirror Logic attached, so that's 4 more interruptions because of stream materials. I shouldn't count Rescue, but I'm still counting it somewhat anyway. Just in case they leave something really big in their graveyard, you can just snatch it, do whatever you got to do to it. And so 8 interruptions during the opponent's turn, thanks to Detonator. I think it's a pretty solid way to play the deck. But now remember, just this particular board requires two Rescue Ace monsters, not just 1. So here's the first build. This is the one that I came up with. So it has Ryzeal as the majority of the engine. And as you can see, by having Bonfire, X, Airlifter, Rhoda, Ice, and Sword, we've increased the consistency of the deck significantly. And so in that case, I don't want to brick on the Rescue Ace cards as much as possible. I mean, I know it's very possible I may draw 1 or 2 of them, but I don't want to draw anything more than that. I don't want it to be like a thing. So I tried to keep the Rescues package as small as possible while still keeping just the essentials in. And even then, that's still pretty difficult because I would argue all of these are essential, all the spells and traps are essential. Maybe the trap cards can kind of go out of style a bit, but I don't think they're non-essential, you know. Half the extra deck is for the Ryzeal combos and for the stuff that they can do, and the other half of the extra deck is kind of dedicated toward, well, SP's a staple, and so is Puzzle Mina. I mean, so is Anima. But, you know, it's kind of dedicated to making sure that the Promethean Princess OTK can resolve. It's a good backup plan in case you get Dimensional Barriered and you have no other line of play with Exceed monsters. Or even Mischief of the Gnomes. I think that's another one that people are playing right now. It doesn't do anything into Promethean Princess. So going into the second list, it's a more Ryzeal-Oriented list, right? So you see them on the Impulses, you see them on the Fire Engine, you see them on multiple Preventer, multiple Hydrant, triple Emergency, and then they also played a smaller Ryzeal package. They're not playing Ice at all, they're only playing Double Sword, and they're playing Plug-in as well. And so I did the math on this, and in my build, when I'm playing Rescue Ace with pretty much triple Ice, triple X, triple Bonfire, and Sword being able to start my turn as well, I essentially put myself up to 15 one-card starters, and that gives me a 90% chance to draw 1. And the reason why I think like that's so much better of a payoff than this second list, since Sword cannot be a starter due to it needing it to be a normal summoned, and you're not playing Ice, meaning you're not going to be able to get the full extension off of like normal summon, the, you know, Search X, whatever. Like, you could still in theory go summon Sword, grab X, grab Node, overlay into King Dempsey, but you're not on Dugaris, and that's the biggest issue. Like, and without Dugaris, Sword cannot be a starter. Your starters here are really only Bonfire, X, Airlifter, and Reinforcement. That's putting you down to 10 starters, which isn't terrible, like, but it's a significant drop in consistency to the point where it's no longer like hyper consistent that you're gonna see Airlifter first turn. Now it's going to be like something of a maybe only like 8 out of 10 games you see Airlifter instead of 9 out of 10 games you see Airlifter, which in a long tournament, if that's what you plan to bring this deck to because you love Rescue Ace and you slightly like Ryzeal or you don't mind Ryzeal, then playing the Ices will make the difference, because that's a 10% increase in, it's over 10% increase in how significant those cards could be for helping you start your turn. Other than that, I think the theory here still works. You know, Hydrant for OTKs, and then they also have Impulses here for in case our opponent gets playing on their turn, we can potentially punish them with Fire Engine into our own Airlifter, so that we can have some good follow-up for our turn. They are playing Headquarters in main, which I think just conflicts too much with Cross, and this is part of the reason why I decided to keep it simple, is because I figured if Emergency can reset the traps anyway, then you kind of don't need Headquarters, because you'd rather just leave Cross on field. Like, in a perfect world, Cross just is so much better, because Cross only needs to shuffle back 2, and Cross interacts with the opponent's plays, you know, potentially stopping them from making strong power plays, while Headquarters, all it does is just recycle. Sure, it gives you an extra normal summon, but that really only matters if you're going into your link plays and you don't somehow have access to something like a Preventer. Otherwise, I don't see the entire point of using the Rescue Ace Headquarters. And then they also chose Lance as a spicy tech here to play through Board Breakers, I'm guessing. Droplet, Ultimate Slayer. I don't think Super Poly's that popular right now because it doesn't work against Ryzeal. And Tenpai really only use it out of desperation. All the same tricks. Raging Phoenix OTK, SP, except this time they're also playing IP. No Sunlight Wolf. I guess Hida would be their go-to interruption for summoning on the opponent's turn. And yeah, I do like the Excidon Knight. Let me know what you guys think about Rescue Ace and how you may like to utilize Ryzeal, or if you have any other engine suggestions for Rescue Ace, please let me know in the comment section below. I know the deck can't play Dominus Impulse anymore, sadly, because of the Ryzeal stuff, but I think it's a good price to pay for more consistency and just a stronger grind game. It's been your boy Nistro here. signing out.